On Jenna Ellis tonight, Kamala Harris locks up the Democrat Party support, including George Clooney's endorsement. Rawr. But is she qualified? Chris Coons, one of her Senate colleagues, said that one of her top qualifications includes her ability to build small businesses. With Joe Biden passing the leadership of the Democrat Party to Kamala Harris, we get all the progressive policies that destroy communities, but with none of that blue-collar charm. Just a crackling laugh as our nation descends into chaos. Also, is Joe Biden still alive? There's a lot of questions about his health and competency. I talk with Auron MacIntyre of The Blaze and the director of the Secret Service, Resigned. We cover all of this and more on Jenna Ellis tonight.
Well, friends, you might have heard that Mike Lindell and MyPillow no longer have the support of their box stores or shopping channels the way that they used to. They've been part of this cancel culture, so they want to pass along the savings directly to you by having a $25 extravaganza. I love that word, extravaganza. When Mike started MyPillow, it was just a one-product company. With the help of his dedicated employees, they now have hundreds of products, some you may not even know about. To get the word out, I want to invite my listeners to check out their $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-use MyPillows are just $25. MyPillow sandals, also awesome, only $25. Their 6-pack towel sets are $25. And brand new 4-pack dish towels, you guessed it, just $25. For the first time ever, the premium MyPillows with the all-new Giza fabric, just $25. And orders over $75 will receive free shipping too. This amazing offer won't last long. Go to mypillow.com, use the promo code Jenna, or call 800-564-8475 today. That's 800-564-8475, or go to mypillow.com and use the promo code Jenna.
Welcome to Jenna Ellis tonight. My name is Jeff Hunt, and I'm filling in for my good friend Jenna. I'm a radio host on the Salem Media Network in Denver, Colorado. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. So the coronation of Kamala Harris has taken place. Check out this statement she made last night. When I announced my campaign for president, I said I intended to go out and earn this nomination tonight. I'm proud to have secured the broad support needed to become our party's nominee. And as a daughter of California, I am proud that my home state's delegation helped put our campaign over the top. I look forward to formally accepting the nomination soon. My goodness, they acted fast. To provide some commentary on this is Auron MacIntyre. He's a host and columnist with The Blaze and an author as well. Auron, that speed made the commissary of the Soviet Union jealous. I am impressed at how fast the Democrat Party, seemed to disregard democracy and hand select their own nominee. What say you?
Yeah, in the late Roman Empire, the most important thing when you had an ailing or just destitute emperor, when you were about to wipe him off the map, was to make sure you had the line of succession secured, right? You want the Praetorian Guard to rush the new emperor forward as soon as possible so that no one would recognize that there was a lot of disunity behind the scenes. And that seems to be what happened with Harris here. Obviously, there are several factions inside the Democratic Party vying for power. Many of them did not want Biden in place, and many of them still don't want Harris in place. And so whoever wanted to make sure that Harris took the seat went ahead and put that resignation from Joe Biden on Twitter. Suddenly there's a separate post with his endorsement of Harris. And then the federal bureaucracy, which does nothing on a Sunday afternoon ever in the history of mankind, snapped to and immediately changed who was at the top of her ticket, went ahead and transferred the funds, the Electoral Commission, get everything set up right in line. These dominoes were set. There was a plan in motion. And all of a sudden, seamlessly, Kamala Harris, who has never won a primary in her life, is the all for all intents and purposes the nominee of the one of the two most powerful parties in the United States.
Yeah, when she ran in 2020, she didn't even get to the primary part. She withdrew prior to that. I think after Tulsi Gabbard ended her presidential race with that debate. But Auron, look, now you got George Clooney coming out today and singing his swan song and how great Kamala is. And look, what was amazing to me was how orchestrated it all was, from Joe Biden, the pressure campaign, to Joe Biden. He's wrong. He shouldn't be in the race. Then all of a sudden, he resigns. He's the greatest thing. We're so glad for his service to democracy and America and the Republic. And now Kamala comes along and George Clooney is singing her praises, and he's so pretty, and all of Hollywood's getting around her now. And I saw MSNBC yesterday. You're getting almost the kind of tinge down the leg effort to prop up Kamala Harris. It just seems like it's a big show and a desperate effort.
It's got to do something terrible to your soul to try to pretend to be excited about Kamala Harris. I know a lot of these people don't have one left, but truly the damage that has to do to yourself as a human being. Everyone knows that Kamala Harris is this disaster. She is the DEI vice president. It is so clear that this woman has accomplished nothing. Her only ability is to say yes to the right people, to go ahead and please the right people. She has no beliefs. She has no convictions. She has no grassroots. And now all of these people who clearly understand that Kamala Harris is garbage now have to stand up and pretend to fawn over her. Oh, Joe Biden, he's such a hero of the Republic, selflessly putting himself aside so that the new ascendant person. No, Joe Biden was supposed to fill that role last time. They all knew that he was senile. They all knew that. He even described himself as a transitional president. And then he recognized, no, she's a disaster. And as bad as Joe Biden was, he was still preferable to Kamala Harris. Now they all have to change their tune. And like I said, I just don't know what it does to a person's soul to have to continually pretend something like this.
Now, there's lots of up and coming Democrat leaders, Democrat senators and congresspeople and governors and those types of things. And one of the things that I've noticed, Auron MacIntyre, host and columnist with The Blaze, is that maybe they see the writing on the wall and they're willing to let Kamala be the sacrificial lamb, right? So look, Gavin Newsom isn't making a run for this. He could. Jared Polis, governor of Colorado, could make a run for this, as well as Roy Moore. There's lots of people out there that could compete in a Democrat primary, but they all seem to be stepping back and maybe hinting that they would be okay being the vice presidential pick. But you don't see a real effort to get the nomination. Do you think that deep within the Democrat Party, they're coming to terms with the fact that they are going to lose to Donald Trump? And if they're going to let somebody fall on their sword, we're going to let Kamala do it?
I think they're in a very strange moment, because you're right that it seems like a lot of people who should be vying for this, fighting for this, recognizing the importance of this moment, are not making any moves. Even though guys like Barack Obama and Bloomberg said, well, maybe it should be an open convention, maybe this shouldn't be a done and done scenario, there still seems to be a consensus that Harris is going to go ahead and move forward. The problem with opening up Harris as some kind of sacrificial lamb is, again, she is the DEI candidate. She represents, even though her support is an inch deep, she represents all of these categories that the left has championed, and they're holy and they're sacred, and you have to do everything to defend them against the sexist, racist Hitler that is Donald Trump. And so if you put her out against Donald Trump, but you only kind of make half an effort, you really don't defend her, you don't go in the paint for her, that looks really bad. It looks like you went ahead and floated somebody who's the personification of all the groups you're supposed to protect against the evil conservatives, and you just abandoned her out there. I feel like once she gets attacked, once she gets put into a hard position, if the left doesn't go out and defend her, a lot of these minority groups, a lot of these people who believe the storyline about the left as their champion, are going to start asking questions. So ultimately, even if they do offer her as a sacrificial candidate, I think that's a dangerous game, because it could make it apparent to many of the groups that they're serving that actually, at the end, they don't really care about these people.
Well, and that's what we all know is that they don't really care. So when she goes up against Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, she's already starting to use this line, the prosecutor versus the perpetrator, right? I'm tough on crime. But she's kind of been all over the place. And in part, this is why she wasn't successful in the 2020 Democrat primary, is that on one hand, she was tough on crime and she went after gangs and rapists and murderers as the attorney general and as a district attorney of San Francisco. But then at the same time, she was trying different ways to reduce recidivism, and maybe nonviolent offenders we're not going to keep in that way, and so, or keep in prison. So people were kind of pulled in all sorts of different directions about her leadership. Do you think that the tough on crime, prosecutor versus perpetrator messaging coming from Kamala Harris is going to be effective against Donald Trump?
No, it's really awkward. As you point out, this is the party of anarcho-tyranny. This is the party of restorative justice. They don't actually believe in any kind of criminal enforcement. They think that it's racist. They explicitly tell the African American community that any kind of police protection is actually some kind of return to slavery. So how do you put someone up there who's a cop? How do you put up someone who is supposed to be tough on crime? No one really believes this from her. This is a woman who is out there bailing out BLM and Antifa activists during the riots, but she's also supposed to be somebody who's delivering law and order. It really just highlights the contradiction inside the left, where you care about law and order when it applies to Donald Trump, when you want to put your political opponent into prison. But when it comes to any other form of law and order, when it comes to people getting mugged, having their stores destroyed, shoplifting, rioting, all of a sudden the law just disappears for the average American.
Yeah. Auron, I asked the question to Democrat listeners on our radio show. Can you name for me the most successful thing that Kamala Harris has ever done in her vice presidency, in her Senate tenure, in her tenure as Attorney General or District Attorney in San Francisco? What has been the most successful accomplishment of her career? What would your response be?
Ingratiating herself with the right people from the very beginning of her political career, which I won't go into, all the way up until now. It's been very clear that she's been an embarrassment for the Biden administration. She's the border czar. How's that working out for everybody, right? She hasn't been to the border, but she hasn't been to Europe either. Remember that line? I mean, she really is a complete disaster in every way. And like I said, it's clear to everyone, even those on the left, how she got to where she is now. So this is not a woman who is going to go out and strike her own course. Just like Joe Biden, she is a creature of the left. She's a creature of the regime. She does what she is told. That is her value. And so swapping her out for Joe Biden is in no way significant from a policy perspective or a leadership perspective. You're just changing the coat of the paint on the same oligarchy that's been running the Democratic Party and the wider American government for decades at this point.
Yeah, talking with Auron MacIntyre. He's the host and columnist with The Blaze and an author as well. And to your point, Vivek Ramaswamy pointed out that we can't take her for granted. We're not up against Kamala Harris. We're up against the Democratic machine as conservatives. And so you have to be ready for the full work and weight of the machine that's going to be coming upon conservatives and Republicans. Mark Judge was even talking about her focus on opposition research and how vicious she can be. So I'm going to continue this conversation with Auron MacIntyre. You're watching Jenna Ellis Tonight. My name is Jeff Hunt, filling in for Jenna. We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to Jenna Ellis Tonight. My name is Jeff Hunt, filling in for my good friend, Jenna. All right, so here's Kamala Harris just a few months ago talking about how great Joe Biden is doing with his health and his willingness and readiness to lead a second term.
What do you say to those concerns, and specifically if he had to pass the powers to you for 1 second, 1 minute, heaven forbid, and I ask with all due respect, but, are you capable, are you ready to step into the role and do whatever the country would need?
I'm absolutely ready, but Thank God our president is in good shape, in good health, and is ready to lead in our second term.
Auron MacIntyre, host and columnist with The Blaze, is joining me here, ready to lead a second term in good health, good spirits. He's doing backflips and passing legislation while everybody's asleep at night. I mean, Auron, does Kamala have to answer to the American people for blatantly lying about the health and condition of President Joe Biden?
Well, she would be the first, right? We've had the media propping this guy up for years. We've had the Democratic Party propping this guy up for years. We've had every part of the executive branch pretending that this guy is functioning for years when it obviously wasn't the case. You can go back to 2020 and read different pieces from the left talking about Joe Biden, please just don't die until we beat Donald Trump so you can transition over to Kamala Harris. But obviously, that did not happen. Obviously, that wasn't the case. They knew from the very beginning that this guy was senile. They've been lying the entire time, up to the point where even the day of his resignation, he had campaign surrogates out there saying, Joe Biden's doing great. He's going to be right back on the campaign trail, all of this stuff. The great thing about the distributed nature of the power inside the United States government right now is no one ever seems to be held accountable for any of this stuff. Losing wars, COVID, and lying about Joe Biden's health. At the end of the day, it's just another one of these process stories that they throw out before putting up someone like Kamala Harris to run in his stead.
Well, Auron, do you think that Joe Biden is in any condition to currently be the president of the United States? And my follow-up question is, if no, are you okay with Kamala Harris taking on that role?
I mean, no, obviously Joe Biden is a disaster, and obviously Kamala Harris would be a disaster to follow him. Joe Biden is in no way in charge of the United States right now. He is not the president of the United States in anything other than name, and hasn't been during his entire administration. That's his value. That was why he was valuable to the actual ruling forces behind the left. He was a cipher. He was just this puppet that they could use. Oh, you don't like inflation. Oh, you don't like open borders. Oh, that's all Joe Biden's fault, even though Joe Biden couldn't put together a policy if his life depended on it. He can barely read a 2-minute speech on a teleprompter without collapsing. So obviously he is not in charge, but that's the whole point. Transferring it over to Kamala Harris, again, would just be a new coat of paint on the exact same administration, the exact same regime. So yes, we should just constitutionally not allow someone who's obviously senile to hold the position of president of the United States. So you should invoke the 25th Amendment, but they're not going to do that because then they'd have to admit that they were lying this entire time.
Well, and some reports are concerned that he's not suffering from COVID, that there may be something bigger there. Charlie Kirk reporting that there may have been a medical issue that took place on the recent trip to Las Vegas. Do you have any insight? Do you think that he's being tucked away? Joe Biden's being tucked away because of COVID? Or do you have a sense that there might be something else going on there?
Oh, no, it's entirely possible. He's an old man. There's any number of fatal ailments that he could befall. We've actually had some people intone, his brother, that's possibly the case. No one is sure, but that's the huge problem, right? The American people deserve to know who is in charge of this country. They deserve to know whether or not the president is able to, I don't know, issue a sentence without falling asleep. They deserve to know if he has any kind of major health issues. But we are surrounded by liars. This entire administration is run by people who lie for a living. They are so used to lying to the American people that they don't even hesitate to make up this kind of stuff. So is he just fallen to COVID? Well, that's a fatal illness in many people his age anyway. So that in and of itself could be enough. But it might also be some other even more serious health ailment. We don't know. No one will tell us, and no one in charge seems to be able to bring those in power to heal and have them actually explain what's going on to the people of the United States.
And Auron, all this does is contribute and advance the growing distrust that's taking place in our institutions. Look, Americans don't trust the media anymore. That's been given for a long time. Then we went through COVID. Nobody trusts the quote unquote kind of health and human services institutions anymore because they lied about masks. They lied about the vaccine. They put preschoolers in masks and then kicked them and their parents off of airplanes when they wouldn't sit still. So you've lost trust in media. You've lost trust in the doctors and health institutions. We've lost trust in the FBI. And then we've been told for years that Joe Biden was doing just fine. And we come to see that during that debate that the emperor has no clothes, that all of this is a sham. They're constantly lying to us. Auron, what happens to this experiment, to the republic, when we can't trust our institutions anymore?
Something really bad, and that's a huge problem when you have a country of our size. Institutions are the key way that you go ahead and transmit your values. You have traditional continuity between generations. It's the thing that inculcates people into what it means to be an American. But when you lose that, when the institutions are instead lying, when they are serving a ruling class that has no connections to the good of the people, you're in a really terrible place. You can't have popular sovereignty when all of the information that the people receive is heavily censored through a distributed network of information getters that are going out of their way to go ahead and manipulate people into one particular understanding of the facts. This is a very dangerous place for the country to be, especially as we watch two candidates, one gets shot, the other gets shuffled off stage. The two people who are supposed to be running for president, the regime is obviously doesn't want them involved. That is a very terrible place to be, and that should shake the foundational beliefs that a lot of people have in the way the United States government is run.
Auron, I agree entirely with you. From your perspective, how influential do you think Barack Obama is still with the Democrat Party? And what's his role been with the whole Joe Biden stepping away and now the coronation of Kamala Harris?
Obviously, Barack Obama occupies a unique space inside the Democratic Party. The Clinton machine was really supposed to own everything, and Barack Obama came in and kind of disrupted that momentum. The Clintons had cleared the bench after he was gone to make sure that Hillary would be the ascendant candidate. And now, obviously, she lost to Donald Trump. And so that puts him in a very strange position where Obama is somebody who is kind of the spiritual leader of the party, but may not always have the technical power politics aspects completely locked down. It seems very strange, again, that he did not endorse Harris after this. You would think, again, as the first Black president, he was going along kind of with the identity politics narrative of the left, that he would want that continuity, the credit of handing the baton over to someone like Kamala Harris, who could be the first woman and obviously a woman of color. But instead, he eschews this and says, well, maybe we should have an open primary. It tells us that perhaps there is no love lost between the Biden and Harris factions along with Obama. And that once again, we're noticing that there are these different factions inside the left struggling for control of things behind the scenes.
Auron MacIntyre, host and columnist with The Blaze. Thanks so much for joining me on Jenna Ellis tonight. When we come back, is there a potential October surprise coming up? We'll get into it. You're watching Jenna Ellis Tonight with Jeff Hunt. Welcome to Jenna Ellis Tonight. My name is Jeff Hunt, filling in for my good friend, Jenna. So with everything that the American people have had to go through in the past 10 days, from the attempted assassination of Donald Trump to the RNC convention to Joe Biden withdrawing to Kamala Harris being coronated, oh my goodness, is there anything else we should expect in an October surprise? Well, to join me to provide some commentary, Walker Wildmon. He's the vice president of American Family Association. Walker, I mean, what else could the American people expect? Normally that October surprise comes and that's the big shocker. But at this point, what else could there be, you think?
Well, to quote Christmas Vacation, Chevy Chase, he said, I wouldn't be more surprised if I woke up with my head sewn to the carpet. So I think that pretty much describes this election. I'm not going to be surprised. I mean, this is crazy. We've had the sitting president, the incumbent president, back out of a presidential reelection campaign under about roughly 90 days out. I mean, a little bit more than that, but roughly 90 days out by the election. Early August will be right at the 90-day mark, and this is crazy. And then Kamala Harris is the pick, and he released this on X. I mean, who does that? Who releases a re-election dropout bid via X when you're the sitting president? This is insane. And we don't
Yep.
even know where Biden is, by the way. We don't know where Biden is. So where's Biden? Why isn't he on camera? Could he not have put together a 60-second video to announce this? So this is wild stuff. But what do the Democrats have up their sleeve between now and November? I have no idea, and it's rather concerning.
Well, I don't think there's much more that they could throw at Donald Trump. He's basically survived everything, which is amazing. But, you know, foreign actors could step in. You could see some activity coming from Russia, from China, from the Middle East that could upset this election as well. I think it's critical for the American people to be prepared for what could be a lot more activity in the run up to this election. If you're an adversary to the United States of America, don't you take advantage of this moment?
Yeah, you do. I mean, this is prime opportunity. I'm actually rather surprised China hasn't tried to invade Taiwan. I think their economy's in some trouble, which is probably why they haven't. But overall, this is a prime opportunity. I mean, under a Trump administration, they wouldn't dare do such. So now's the time. The next 90 days is the window of opportunity, and it's closing, or maybe after election between then and inauguration, there's an opportunity for to take advantage of our weakness. But the Democrats, you know, I like to think that they're organized, and I like to think that they have it all together because strategically, they've usually outgained the Republicans in many regards. Because you look throughout, you know, the last 10 or 20 years, the Marxists have made a march on our institutions, and they're very strategic. But it seems as though they're in legit chaos. I really don't think they have a plan unless they have something up their sleeve that we're not aware of. But ballots are about to be printed in the next, you know, 4 to 6 weeks. Ballots are going to be printed for November. So it's not as if they can wait until October and then, you know, do a switcheroo again. But I think the Trump campaign needs to really consider all options here because this isn't normal. This isn't traditional. So I just think the Trump campaign doesn't need to get too confident, too cocky here. They really got to stay on their toes because the Democrats are known for pulling all kinds of shenanigans.
Well, and what you may not know about Kamala Harris is that she's the queen of opposition research. In fact, it was Kamala that encouraged Christine Blasey Ford to continue with her accusations against Brett Kavanaugh when Christine Blasey Ford's own attorneys and Dianne Feinstein encouraged Christine Blasey Ford not to move forward. So if you're J.D. Vance, get ready. You're going to have everything ripped into your life. Well, Walker Wildmon, we're going to continue this conversation. And that next, you're watching Jenna Ellis Tonight with Jeff Hunt filling in for Jenna. My name's Jeff Hunt. I'm filling in for my good friend Jenna Ellis on Jenna Ellis Tonight. Walker Wildmon joins me, Vice President of American Family Association. Today, the director of the Secret Service, Kimberly Cheatle, has resigned. Yesterday's grilling, bipartisan grilling that took place down at the state capitol or at Congress was remarkable. Watch this video of Lauren Boebert.
Now, since the assassination attempt, you are under oath, reminding you, have you communicated with anyone at the White House on an encrypted messaging app like Signal? Yes or no?
No, I have not.
Are you willing to surrender your personal phone for analysis?
If I am required to do so.
Okay. I will look into making that request.
They're going after her personal phone as well. It made me raise an eyebrow. What does Lauren Boebert know that the rest of us don't know about Kimberly Cheatle? Well, she goes through 6 hours, Walker, yesterday of just some of the most brutal and rightfully so intense interview questions about her leadership of the Secret Service. Do you think it was right for her to resign?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's about, I don't know, 7 days too late. Um, the issue here, well, there were multiple issues. I mean, we can talk about the fact that the Secret Service, let a sniper within 140 yards of the president. But as far as the director here, she is really, when I looked at her resume, I don't believe she has any military experience. I may be wrong on that, but from my research, she's been either in the private sector or in government for pretty much her entire career, which I believe is problematic. I think she's been in Secret Service for over 20 years, maybe 25 plus.
Right.
And then she's done some private security contract work as well with PepsiCo. But um, not having military experience in this position is rather shocking. I mean, this is usually a position for, if not military, at a minimum, like law enforcement experience, working your way up through the FBI or something. But she doesn't really have an impressive resume. I mean, I don't even know why she's in this position. And when she testified, it was painful. I mean, I didn't watch the whole thing. I just watched clips, but it was painful, and she couldn't answer any questions. I mean, these are basic questions. How many Secret Service agents were on site on July 13? She didn't know. She had no idea.
No.
Or if she
And
knew, she wasn't telling.
And she had never visited the site. That was one of the most telling, was that even after the assassination attempt, she never visited the site of it to do her own investigation. She didn't even call the agents involved with protecting the president's life until 72 hours after the assassination attempt had taken place. Look, Kimberly Cheatle spent 27 years in the Secret Service, then went and spent a few years with PepsiCo. She was the chief security guard for PepsiCo. And so at one point yesterday, Representative Fallon says, go back to guarding Doritos. It was one of the most powerful moments because that's all she was really good for. Look, the Secret Service is supposed to be non-political. They're not supposed to get involved in politics. They protect roughly about 36 people on a day-to-day basis. This is supposed to be a zero-fail organization. The last Secret Service director that had an assassination attempt happen on their watch was in 1981 with President Ronald Reagan. Following that assassination attempt, the director of the Secret Service resigned. In this case, it took her a few days, but Kimberly Cheatle did finally resign. But this is an epic failure. Do you think this was kind of a failure of DEI?
I think it's a multi-layered failure. I do think diversity, equity, inclusion, that entire garbage, non-merit-based agenda is rearing its ugly head. I mean, look at Kamala Harris. She was polling 1%. I don't want to harp on this too much because we're talking about the Secret Service, but Kamala Harris is polling like under 5%, definitely under double digits in her own home state during the 2020 primary. So, but she's vice president. So this wasn't like some popular senator, that half of America loved. How is she vice president? And the same thing here, when you look at the Secret Service, now former director, when you hear her testimony, you're thinking, how on earth was she ever in charge? She doesn't know anything about anything. And she came to Congress woefully unprepared. But I believe this is a combination of the diversity, equity, and inclusion nonsense, but it's also just pure incompetence. Biden himself is incompetent. Who do you expect him to surround himself with? And I think there's going to be a lot to uncover with this whole White House physician, speaking of Biden, that is running cover for Biden and has been running cover for 3.5 years, saying that Biden is perfectly fine. He's the sharpest thing I've ever seen. And he's been missing for 6 days. We don't even know where he is or what he's doing. And the White House physician keeps running cover. So he's another example. I mean, what's he doing in that position? So there's a lot of questions about these people. But when you elect people like Biden that really have he's been in politics for 60 years. I mean, I looked back the other day, 25 years plus. Before I was born, he was running for something in Delaware, like county commissioner or something, or county council. So this guy's been around for 50 plus years in politics and hasn't accomplished anything. So he surrounds himself with people that are also incompetent.
I appreciated the testimony yesterday against Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheatle. That it was bipartisan in nature. It was both Republicans and Democrats calling for her to resign, which you don't get too often. But look, you have a 20-year-old loser that was able to get within 150 yards with a rangefinder, a drone, and figure out the right place to be able to shoot the president. The Secret Service did not put fire on this guy until after he had already fired the first shot. How can the Secret Service protect anybody from a credible threat from a nation like Iran that actually has resources when a 20-year-old loser can get that close and put a target on the president? This is vast incompetence. I'm glad she finally resigned, but it took both sides to really press to get to that.
It did, and I want to know who was a site supervisor on that day. We need to know his or her name, because they signed off. This is what happens, and I haven't been in law enforcement, but I know a lot of people who have. What happened is whoever the site supervisor is was supposed to go to the podium where the president was going to be, and they look around. It's very simple. You go to the podium and you look around and you go, all right, so where are my threats? And they reportedly looked at that building and identified it as a threat, but yet did nothing about it. That person should resign or be fired immediately. But I don't even know who that person is. Nobody knows their name. Who was in charge that day on the site? But then you have reports of a sniper team, and it's unclear whether it was Secret Service or local law enforcement, but they were actually in the building on the second floor, right behind where the shooter was. And there are reports that they went inside because they were too hot. That's the report. They went inside to a air-conditioned conference room with a window overlooking the rally because they were too hot. I mean, the kind of people that we're putting to protect the most really sought after man in the world, with Iran putting assassination attempts on his life. The fact that you've got sniper teams that are going into the air conditioner to be protected is laughable. Who are these people? Which sniper team said we're going inside to chill and drink a soda while President Trump gets shot at? We need to know who they are. Then the other snipers behind President Trump, they had a bad vantage point. They had trees between them and the snipers. So they were just overall in a bad situation.
Well, and it's important to point out that the snipers that were behind the president were on a roof with a greater angle slope than the roof where they refused to put Secret Service agents because they were afraid of the angle of that roof. It doesn't make any sense. Walker Wildmon, Vice President with American Family Association, thanks so much for being on Jenna Ellis Tonight. I sure appreciate it. When we come back, I've done a deep dive on Kamala Harris. You're not going to want to miss it. Jeff Hunt filling in for Jenna Ellis Tonight. We'll be right back. Hi, my name is Jeff. I'm filling in for my friend Jenna Ellis. With Joe Biden passing the leadership of the Democrat Party to Kamala Harris, we get all the progressive policies that destroy communities with none of that blue-collar charm. Gone are the stories of corn pop, Corvettes, and scrappy upbringings from Scranton. No more big rig driving, my uncle was eaten by cannibals, Joe Biden. No, instead, Kamala brings those San Francisco, California, open border, healthcare for all, feces in the street, needle swapping, spread the wealth around, and drive up that deficit policy, all with that lovable signature cackle. Her progressive policies destroyed San Francisco, California, and now the rest of America. Every step of the way up her career, she has left her community worse off. She served 2 terms as the district attorney of San Francisco, replete with marijuana prosecutions, embracing the idea of becoming a sanctuary city, and the banning of gun shows. Illegal immigrants, yes, but you Midwesterners with your guns, absolutely not. She declined to pursue the death penalty for a cop killer. As California's attorney general, she promoted affirmative action for college admissions. well, directly judging people by the color of their skin. The progressives hate her because they believe she weaponized legal technicalities to keep innocent people behind bars. Conservatives oppose her because she targeted pro-life activists trying to expose the abortion industry. She's an election denier. She can't hold staff. Her chief of staff, deputy chief of staff, press secretary, deputy press secretary, communications director, and chief speechwriter have all resigned during her tenure. She was the lead senator in convincing Christine Blasey Ford to continue her accusations against Justice Brett Kavanaugh, even after Ford's own attorneys and U.S. Senator Dianne Feinstein told Ford not to go through with the accusations. She covered up Joe Biden's decline to the American people. Just a few months ago, she said Joe Biden was, quote, in good shape, in good health, and is ready to lead in our second term, unquote. As border czar, Kamala Harris wanted to completely overhaul ICE, comparing ICE agents to the KKK. She wants free taxpayer-funded health care and education for illegal aliens. Any effort by a president to close the border, well, she considers that illegal. Her plan for addressing the immigration crisis was to strengthen diplomatic ties with these countries and to oversee investment and implementation of our tax dollars in the form of foreign aid to these countries. The result of her leadership? Well, in the first full month since Kamala officially assumed her role as border czar, illegal crossings shot up 128% compared to the month she took office. Monthly illegal crossings nearly doubled during her tenure, remaining above 150,000 per month almost every single month. To give you a little context, President Trump averaged 50,000 border crossings a month. Kamala brought in 3 times more illegal immigrants. She's bad on the economy, the border, healthcare, education, national security, foreign policy, energy, and most importantly, probably the dollar in your pocket. Watch Senator Chris Coons, one of Kamala's Senate colleagues, describe her accomplishment.
What do you think has been Vice President Harris's biggest accomplishment as vice president?
Well, look, I think she's done remarkable work across several important areas. Something that I think hasn't gotten much coverage is her passion for entrepreneurship, for wealth creation, for securing and stabilizing the middle class. She's traveled around the country to meet with small businesses and to talk with them about what it takes to get back to work, to grow a small business, to sustain the wealth and opportunity for a family.
I love that Brett Baer interrupted him. She did that? Kamala has great passion for entrepreneurship and wealth creation. Whose? Hers? Forbes estimates her net worth is now at $8 million. She's traveled around the country to meet with small businesses and talk with them about what it takes to get back to work. Give me a break. She has no idea what it means to grow a small business. And according to a CNBC approval poll late last year, Biden and Harris's approval among small business owners stood at 30%, a record low. Well done, Kamala Harris. Well done. Sure, Chris, lead with that issue because you know you can't on anything else. With Kamala Harris, the country gets a wacky leftist trained in San Francisco and California that has left every single community she led worse than when she began her job. All of Biden's policies continue, but without that blue-collar charm, all we will hear is that cackling laugh as our country sinks into further despair. Well, my name is Jeff Hunt. I'm a radio host in the Salem Media Network in Denver, Colorado, filling in for my good friend, Jenna Ellis. It's been an honor to be with you all today. You can follow me on X at x.com, Jeff Hunt. God bless you all, and yeehaw.